All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher here with Drew Dinsick. We have a special guest today out in Indianapolis at the Combine, Eric Froton, newly crowned FSWA College Sports Writer of the Year. Congratulations, Eric. How is it like in Indy at the moment?
Oh, well, I know you and I were ships in the night. I'm sorry that I missed you. We didn't get to have our prime evening last night, 2 nights ago, Jay, but it's looking pretty good here. Plenty of interviews to enjoy. And I just got to interview my cousin, Cole Bishop, who is a member of the 2024 NFL draft class. So always a thrill.
Well, that's cool. Very cool. And congratulations again. Loved your insight all season long. And, even more than just winning the hardware, you guys were extremely profitable. If anyone was kind of tuning into the weekly breakdowns, it was a great insight into the betting space with respect to college football. So appreciate you for that. Need your help, though. The work never ends, Eric, and we got pretty decent liquidity available here in some of these early draft pick markets, and the uncertainty is still enormous right now. I mean, there's very little settled, in my opinion, about the 2 and 3 picks. I know you had a mock draft out, but talk to me a little bit about pick 2 with the Commanders. I think there's a relatively high degree of confidence that they're going to take best quarterback in their mind available. Do you think that there is relatively high confidence on who that is? And, to what degree or what signs, what signals, what should we be looking for to track down information for that market?
Yeah, well, this is probably the most well parsed over market right now. This is the one that everyone's looking at. Caleb Williams is pretty much settled. He's already up there at 16-1, maybe even higher at this point. But this is the one that is getting closer and closer. And it comes down to Drake Maye and Jayden Daniels. And I do think 110% Washington will be taking a quarterback. In my mock draft scenario, I went with Drake Maye. And the reason why I like him a little bit more than Jayden Daniels, or I should say, comfortably, is you have to factor in age. And Jayden Daniels, for the first 4 years of his collegiate career between Arizona State and then going over there at LSU, was a fairly, mundane quarterback. Wasn't somebody that was being thought about in even day 2 circles, heading into this last season, and then obviously just became a rocket ship and, simply took off the 90-plus explosive runs, most by any quarterback in recent, memory. But, you have to look at that. It wasn't explosive runs, it was explosive plays. But when it comes to Jayden Daniels, a lot of those plays came from his running ability, and what I'm concerned about with him is when he gets off of script, when he feels pressure, even when he doesn't feel pressure and he just simply has the clock go off in his head and he bails, he's running most of the time when he is flushed. And that's something that really is hard to translate to the NFL. And to illustrate it, let me put it this way. His passing rate when off of script was only 20%. 1 out of every 5 times he was flushed or pressured in some way, he threw the ball. That's 80% of the time he's running at 210 pounds. And we saw some of the absolute highlight reel-worthy tackles that he took, getting essentially, pile driven in the ground multiple times. This is a guy, he puts himself in danger all the time, and in the NFL, 57% of the time that a quarterback gets flushed, they're throwing the ball. That is a drastic difference from 20%, which is actually the lowest rate in the entire FBS that he threw when off script. That is a concern to me. On the other side, with Drake Maye, 21 years old, 3rd year, he still has a lot of growing to do. He's got 2 years away from where he will be when Jayden Daniels is now. And his downfield passing ability, 20% of his throws, Drake Maye's, were downfield passes. That was the 4th most in the Power 5, and 47% of those deep passes were completed. That was the 5th best rate in the entire Power 5. So when I'm looking at the frame of Drake Maye, I'm looking at his lineage, the basketball background for his brother, his dad, even himself, all that, the growth. I am a Drake Maye proponent at number 2.
Okay. Well, it looks like effectively a head-to-head market between these two in the number 2 overall pick market. Not quite in the 3rd overall pick market. They have the same odds at FanDuel, both plus 170. But Marvin Harrison Jr. is also in the mix there. He is plus 270. Do you think, Eric, that ultimately the Patriots just select which of the quarterbacks doesn't go to, or is there a chance they take Maserati Marv?
Well, I am a Patriots fan, so I actually spoke today in Indianapolis with Phil Perry, who is the NBC correspondent for Boston, a guy who I've known for a few years and is very dialed into the Boston marketplace. He and I had a discussion about this very topic, and we are both in unison. I think this is going to be a QB here at this pick. I think it's likely. I think if it's Maye is there, I think they take Maye. With the new regime in town, I think they want to put their stamp there. Only question I kind of have is maybe JJ McCarthy, if he blows them away, could slip into that conversation. But I do think, he's very thinly built. He's still a lot of questions about his development, where they were a very run-heavy scheme. I'm leaning towards that being, more likely. Whoever isn't taken of Drake Maye or Jayden Daniels will be the Patriots pick.
Okay. You think JJ McCarthy is the guy that could sow a little bit of chaos in the top three?
I think he kind of could. And you look at the odds that we have obviously posted now at 8.5, to 1. Ooh, if we're out there looking to throw some stabs and sprinkle and have a little fun on draft night, well, that's a good way to make a tidy little return off of it. That being said, it is unlikely. But I like Maye at current odds.
Okay.
Yeah, I think as well that it's all a trickle down to the number 2 overall pick market, and that is the one that feels like it's going to move the most rapidly, given that it is kind of the marquee market on the board. I asked around a little bit when I was in India. It's like, is there any chance that Caleb doesn't go 1? And I was told, but everyone that I spoke to was like, no, this is about as done as it can possibly be that Caleb is going 1. So the next call will be at 2, and it seems like it's headed towards Maye, but I don't think there's any certainty there at the moment. All right, before we get to a little more JJ chat and Michael Penix and Bo Nix, spring training is here. So for those looking to get ahead on the upcoming MLB season, grab your Roto-World Baseball Draft Guide. It's loaded with comprehensive positional rankings, projections, and player profiles to ensure your draft is a success. Visit NBCSports.com/draft guide and use code baseball24 to get 10% off at checkout. All right. In terms of the team to draft JJ McCarthy, who is maybe the most divisive quarterback in the draft, where there is at opposite ends of the spectrum, I think you have kind of just football fans who are just baffled that he's in the discussion to be potentially a top 3 pick, given that Michigan's offense was so run heavy and he didn't really have to do a great deal, though he did do enough when he was required to. And then there are some scouts who seem to adore him. So what part of the draft, Eric, do you think that JJ will go? And is there a team in particular you think he's most likely to land with?
I tend to think that 10 to 22 range or so, just outside or, just making the playoffs down. I think that's really the sweet spot for him. I figure if Kenny Pickett can get picked at 20, with JJ McCarthy could certainly be worthy of it if you think of it that way. But, look at the teams. Obviously, Atlanta doesn't want to be left out of this QB dance. I think it's very clear of that. Denver is paying Russell Wilson an ungodly amount of money to just simply go away. They want to be able to have a plan in place, to turn the page to. So I think when you factor in, desperation here and the fact that I don't know how many different NFL teams started different quarterbacks, but there was so many. I just felt like the level of QB play last year, from what I was watching, was just so much lower than what you're used to. And backup quarterbacks are even more important nowadays as well. So I just feel like there's so much of a premium on that position. It's the toughest thing to do in all of sports. Obviously, it's not exactly high-end analysis with that, but I think you're going to find a team that wants a solution, wants a plan in place that's going to be in that range. And I kind of think Denver. That's what my gut tells me is the Broncos.
Okay. And do you think that through the process, McCarthy will get enough of because again, like this could all originate from his agent, right? Like that's the way that the kind of cloak and dagger stuff works with information. Like his agent could just be in everyone's ear. McCarthy's going to go a lot higher than people think. He's going to go, yeah, everybody's got eyes for McCarthy, right? Like that's kind of sort of the undercurrent that everybody is talking about right now. And I don't have a solid source on why. I don't think it's not coming from a talent evaluator or a scout or a GM. Like that's coming from agents, right? But do you think there is any possibility that McCarthy, kind of rises and challenges, the top, the number 2 and 3 in terms of just talent evaluation, to where a team must go get him at 4, right? Because if the Broncos fall in love with him, like I don't think they can necessarily sit on their heels and wait, because like you mentioned, the Falcons are not going to be willing to pass on a quarterback. Certainly the Vikings and the Raiders in division are going to be jockeying for position to take a quarterback. So I guess, do you think that ultimately he could become coveted enough to warrant someone giving a Godfather offer to the Cardinals for the 4 pick?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. That could happen. And in fact, I mean, I think that scenario is very much in play, especially given the Cardinals, their propensity to want to trade down. Look at how much extra capital they've banked, especially last year, to trading down. That being said, if I don't think that the best partner is the Cardinals, because why wouldn't they take Marvin Harrison there? Why look the gift horse in the mouth? I mean, I could see it happening, but I just think the logic, Occam's razor says, what's the most logical solution? It would be for them to take it. I think the Chargers, though, at 5, because they're set. They got Herbert. What do they really need? Probably an offensive lineman. Oh, okay. You can bump down Atlanta. You can bump down a few picks, and you're still going to get a great OL, even if you're at 12, 11 with the Vikings, as you mentioned, the Raiders. Down to 8, you're getting Fashanu or Alt. If you're going down to 8, you're moving down to Atlanta. So I think you could see the Chargers, make a move there, which, damn, if that franchise doesn't need to make a little shake up there, I can say that. We can say that, Drew. We're Southern California guys, right? We can talk smack about the Chargers.
Yeah.
It probably wouldn't be bad for them to bank a couple extra picks, with the variance they have in some of their selections. Quentin Johnson.
And the holes on that roster right now are pretty glaring. Yeah. Jay, I don't want to give you PTSD, but I need some help. Put it on your bookmaking cap and put an over-under up for JJ McCarthy right now.
I mean, where the Vikings are picking, which is, is it 10.5, that type of range? I don't know.
11,
I think that
11, I think they are, yeah.
Yeah, that's in my head where I think that he's likely to go. But he is the guy who I think he might have, of the quarterbacks, the widest range of outcomes, at least of these top tier guys, because he's been getting smashed offshore to go, second or third? And then it seems like his most likely outcome is probably 10 or 11 unless someone trades up. So that's about where I'd have it. Eric, Michael Penix and Bo Nix, other marquee quarterbacks who faced off in the Pac-12 title game, and much to my delight, the 10.5-point dog Michael Penix got home, which is I still don't understand how the Lions moved from what they were when I think Washington were 3-point favorites at home, and then they were 10.5-point dogs. And not that I know more than the market on the Pac-12 title line, but that still just is completely baffling to me. Anyway, let's put them head to head again. Where do you think these guys likely go? And again, is there a team for each of them that you think makes the most sense?
Yeah, and gosh, that was honestly the great mispriced college football sideline of the year, frankly, Jay. And you're right on the money. Congratulations for profiting on that. I actually was in attendance for that game.
Nice.
At Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. So it was a great one, obviously. But with the two of them, it is an interesting question. With Nix, you look at him, didn't really get pressured much because he had 2.22 seconds time to throw. He basically just ran an offense that was laid out for him. It was shotgun snap, take it, look, pivot, throw ball. It was that quick. There was no real reads, no progressions involved. that Kenny Dillingham, the previous year and then this year, will sign, was giving him. And it's like, we don't know what he looks like in a pro system. And even in that system that he's doing that is real quick, easy, one read, he wasn't dialing it deep. Only 11% of his passes were of 20 yards or more. That was the lowest percentage in the nation with any quarterback that had 50 or more deep passing attempts. So with him, if you can't stretch the field like that at the NFL level, I have concerns about your overall efficacy and how you're going to survive. And he doesn't have, a big arm. So, can he even read a field? He doesn't throw downfield. With Penix, he's got the big arm. I know he will sit there. He will take a shot without a doubt. Like, I'm not worried about him staying in the pocket. However, he played behind the Joe Moore award-winning offensive line. Joe Moore Award is given out to the best offensive line in college every year. And for most of the season against Pac-12 competition, he wasn't getting pressured. He was able to stay back there and throw to 3 NFL caliber wide receivers in Jalen Polk, Jalen McMillan, and of course, Rome Odunze, who was a top 3, he'll probably be a top 10 pick. And he has all the talent in the world to be able to work with out there from a clean pocket. Against Michigan in the national title game, where you saw Michigan was able to get pressure with 4. They didn't have to bring heat. He stayed in, he was getting hit. And when he had to deal with being harassed on a more consistent basis, his eyes lowered and he wasn't able to show the accuracy that he did in the first national title, playoff game against Texas, where he was dropping dimes downfield, the beautiful bucket shots, 30 yards down the field. He wasn't able to do that when he wasn't able to sit there and have 4 seconds to throw. So when he was asked to throw on the run, another thing that I really use as important gauge for QBs, he was one of, in my estimation, the worst when passing off of script. His completion rate when scrambling, 23%. It's as low as you're going to find. I think it was the lowest in the Power 5. So those are my problems with Penix. Bad knee, doesn't throw well off of script, didn't handle pressure well, and had an incredible offensive line. What does it look like when he's in a mortal situation against the best of the best in the NFL? I have questions. Push comes to shove, I will go with Michael Penix since he has the bigger arm, and I've seen him actually be able to complete balls downfield.
Okay, fair enough. Let's pivot to what I would call your specialty, which is the skill position group. And ask you a little bit about these guys here. So it is not a secret. This is a wide receiver rich draft. It has been now we're kind of in just the golden age of young wide receivers coming in and making an immediate impact in the league, which I think is fueling even more enthusiasm for, teams drafting these guys early. Do you think that this is a pretty stratified group as is, or do you think the combine has the potential to reshuffle, the kind of the thinking on who goes when and where and finding potential suitors among all of these very talented wide receivers?
Yeah, it will definitely make a difference for some of these guys. And like you said, with such a competitive group, with so many talented wideouts, and with, frankly, college offenses being geared to produce these wideouts now. The air raidification of the college game, just have better wideouts. And God, we're lucky for it as the viewing public, and the betting public. But with this group, you are going to see some fortunes hinge on the 40 time. In fact, I mean, a great example is Keon Coleman. You hear a lot about Keon Coleman. Wide variance in terms of opinions. 6'4", 215, returns kicks. You don't see a lot of guys his size doing that. The highlight reel catches up and down. You can't not see them. They were all over SportsCenter and NBC Sports, of course. With the things that he does and doesn't do well, not great overall with the contested catches, 8 of 24, 33% contested catch rate is great downfield. But in terms of overall, he isn't a great separator at the break point. He's a big guy. If he's going to win, it's going to be like Drake London kind of does, at that big 6'4", 215, 220. He's going to bully you. He's a freak athlete, former D1 college basketball player from Michigan State before he transferred to Florida State. But can he separate? Does he have the juice to win, against NFL caliber quarterbacks? Because he didn't show a lot of separation on tape. he's going to be important. If he can get as close to 4.5 as he possibly can for his size, that's going to be important. And then another guy, maybe like Xavier Worthy, who his hands have been a little bit maligned, throughout this process and talking about him like, oh, is he a complete receiver? Well, he's the type of guy who could go out and hit 4.3, maybe even break 4.3. And if he does that, well, guess what? He's probably going to go at the end of the first round, either the Bills or Kansas City, who want to put a ready-made weapon who puts the acceleration on tape and has the high-end deep speed. So it's going to be important for some of these closely clustered wideouts.
Okay. Going to the top of the board, the absolute top of the board for wideouts, just a random one that's been building a little bit lately. Do you think there's any chance, Eric, that Malik Nabers goes over Marvin Harrison?
Oh, I never like to say never when it comes to super talented guys in the NFL draft, because personal preference is a thing, and you've heard rumblings that there are GMs that apparently like Nabers more, and I can't argue with it. Do I love Marvin Harrison Jr.? Would I take him? Absolutely. 6'4", 205. And when you hear D-backs talk about going up against him, they talk about is his strength, so where you can have that sort of a frame. His shoulders, I mean, I've seen him in person. His shoulders are massive. You look at his shoulders of a tight end, but he's only 205, and he can move like that. He could possibly run a 4.4 flat, or at least in the low 4.4s. We won't get to see him run, but with that kind of overall size, athleticism, ability to track the ball downfield, the pedigree from his dad, I'm in. But let's not discount Malik Nabers. Like, just because he happens to be in the same draft class as Marvin Harrison Jr. doesn't mean he is any less of a prospect. I mean, you watch him on the curl routes, on the digs, on the outs. He gets separation at the break point, but even more so, he gets those curls. And as soon as he's catching it, he's attacking the ball with his hands. He's coming to the ball, but he knows in his mind he's got somebody trailing him. And most of the time, he's shaking that trailing defender. And then he's got that whole canvas to paint with, which is the entire field. And his ramp-up speed is as good, in my opinion, as Xavier Worthy we just talked about, but he's 25 pounds heavier. He's at the 195 two mark, whereas Worthy's maybe 175-ish. I mean, so much stronger, more ability in terms of, breaking arm tackles, being able to ward off defenders, not getting knocked off his routes. He's a complete receiver, led the nation with a 65% deep catch rate. He had a plus 90th percentile PFF grade to all four levels of the field, both behind the line and deep. Only receiver in this draft class to have that designation. He's a complete guy. It's not a knock on him. 1A, 1B, however you want to put it. I don't feel comfortable saying that he's that much better than Marvin Harrison, that it's a complete wouldn't happen. But I do have Marvin Harrison above him.
Okay. That's very, very useful to know. I'm not shocked. Other people have kind of made this point, and other people that I've talked to that have seen Harrison in person have been like, this is the next Calvin Johnson. Don't overthink it. Like, this is he's just ridiculous. But all that said, I got to ask you about running backs. You can take this question in whatever direction you feel like it. But they're going to be running 40s on Saturday. That's kind of the main event, I guess, of the combine. If you're watching it on TV, it's definitely the main event if you're betting combine 40 times. Anything you want to kind of shed some light on this running back class, and in particular what to expect out of them at the combine?
Oh gosh, we'll go with the running back class first. I've seen in terms of consensus, Jonathan Brooks, Texas, as the number one general running back. He's coming off an ACL, which happened late in the season. So even though that seems to be like Tommy John surgery for pitchers nowadays for running backs, just something to be wary of. And he's only about 205. He's not a particularly big running back. He doesn't have excessive twitch that I look at that really does it. He doesn't have the home run speed. He's more of a fluid runner, who's good. But I don't know if I look at him and I'm just, oh yeah, coming off an ACL, I'm ready to crown him RB1. I think guys like Trey Benson for Florida State, he's a legit 220 pounder. He tore up his knee as a freshman. He came back and he ripped the ACC in his first season with Florida State, transferring from Oregon for 4.5 yards after contact and 79 missed tackles in like 150 carries. Okay, he had a plus 50% broken tackle rate. That's insane. And he had one of the highest real analytics mile per hour scores on the field of any player in the country, regardless of position. So I think he hit almost 22.9, almost 23 on the gun. That's ridiculous at 220. He's somebody you're going to want to watch. He's currently lined, I want to say, he opened real low. He was up there like 4.35. I think he's at 4.39. He's currently at 4.39 right now. Just to hear that number, 4.39 at 220, it tells you something about Trey Benson. We have it like that is Jonathan Taylor. That is Breece Hall. That is the rarefied air of sub 4.4.
Sure.
40 time for a running back. So keep that in mind with Trey Benson. If there's somebody else to watch on the track, definitely Tennessee running back Jalen Wyatt. Jalen Wright. Jalen Wyatt was last. Jalen Wright, Tennessee running back. Okay, he's currently lined at 4.32. He opened at 4.31 last night. Everything has moved seismically in terms of these markets since they've gone out. The fact he's only moved 1/100th of a point, all right, he is going to run the fastest of any running back. I mean, I feel great about him being the fastest RB if you're in that market. If you're in his regular market at 4.32, listen, he's 212. Okay, 4.32 at 212. We're talking about physics being defied, okay, here. Take that over.
Yeah, over. Okay. I like it.
Take that over. Okay.
Eric, last one from me. Do you think anyone breaks the 40-yard dash record at the Combine, which is a 4.22? It was John Ross in 2017 on DraftKings. The no is minus 700. The yes is plus 450. Which side would you be on?
I have another category other than yes or no.
Oh.
Okay.
Hell no!
No
one's going to come close to that out of this class. There isn't anybody like that. You want to talk A-Chain last year? Fine. Guy was Olympic caliber sprinter.
Sure.
The best verified times we're getting out of this class is actually like a kind of a random guy. He's Tyler Owens from Texas Tech, a nondescript prospect, a day 3 prospect, in terms of his overall talent level. 6'3", measured in, all right, 6'3", 207.
Okay.
207 at the, not the Combine, but at the Senior Bowl, okay? Tyler Owens. In order for him to get to 4.22 at 207, again, we're talking physics here. And he's the best one. He did a 10.26 in the 100 meters. But that's getting going, all right? We're talking about 6'3", 207 ramping up. He's the best you got. It's not happening. I know it's a big number, whether you want to lay that or not, 20-1, but it ain't happening.
I love it. Okay. So the bridge jumper of the weekend is no minus 700. That sounds good to me. I'm shopping through. I'm looking for some something to marry my my Jalen over on his 40 time. Any other 40 times really stand out to you that for keeping in mind these are probably going to move, as most of these soft markets that Eric crushes do. But any other legs that you think I'll be looking out for?
Sure. So we are, again, you got to understand, these came out yesterday, these markets. Again, seismically, these have already moved. It's almost ridiculous how we're talking oh my God.
Yeah, big seismic.
Couple that I like.
Yeah. No.
Couple that I liked, big seismographs. Braylon Allen started out at 4.4. He was at 4.43. He's currently at 4.47. He is 240 pounds.
Whew, Jesus.
Good luck. I mean, it's going to keep going up, I think. Like, that's a big number. Audric Estime started at 4.48. He's at 4.5 even. 4.5 even at 220 plus pounds. That's a big number as well. And then Blake Corum started out at 4.39. I put it into orbit. It's currently up near Saturn, Europa. It's over there right now. The Blake Corum 4.39 line. He's at 4.46. Still think that's too low. To me, too low. You have to go higher. So I'm going over on what's left here. I don't see a lot of value on much of the unders.
Okay. There you go. Well, I wouldn't want to book your action on these, Eric. These are very beatable markets, and I would definitely rather be on your side than the market side. So that is very likely good mail. All right, we are done. Eric, thank you so much for joining us. Can you tell people where to follow you on social media and what you're working on?
Absolutely. You can follow me at CF Froton on social media. I'll be working on the Combine. I'll have a couple different columns coming out. Certainly some videos, as I am wont to do. And as always, be on the lookout at NBC YouTube channel in season for college football, where I host every Saturday morning, the 11 a.m. NBC Sports YouTube Q&A with all my college football props, which I hit 67% this year for the fourth consecutive year. I've hit 67% on settled lines verified.
Yeah, I was looking at your Twitter pinned tweet before, and you went 246 and 120 season props and it's all tracked. So it's that's a pretty good record.
Would I go on best bets? That's on there too.
Come on, what kind of average odds are you talking? Minus 200? What? Minus
best bets 17-5. Also,
okay, 17-5 best. I knew I slayed my best bets. So just be on the lookout on our beloved NBC Sports YouTube channel during the fall. I'll be there and I'll be making you money.
Indeed. Okay, we love it. All right, don't forget to check out NBCsports.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks to those of you watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, don't forget to rate and subscribe. And also a reminder to find all your favorite NBC Sports shows on Amazon Music. Just head to amazon.com/NBC Sports. Thanks again to Eric Froton from Jay Crouch and Drew Dinsick. We'll see you next week.